for your healing. The circumstances would change. I pray that the fear inside would flee in Jesus' name.
So let's go to the part where the Blessed Mother, because at 14, no, you're in a satanic cult. And no, you're what? You're a Satanist?
Yeah, well, at this point, I'm as high as I want to go in this coven.
Mhm.
You know, I've got the red robe. I'm a mage.
And is your life this perfect life with no incident that it's keeping you there? Like you're still happy? You're
At 16 years old, I grew a mustache.
Mhm.
And people started writing in saying they didn't want to see me in movies anymore. Because now I'm looking more like a man or a young man than as a boy or as a kid.
Mhm.
And they were no longer interested. And when you go from being on top of the world yesterday to underneath the world today, it's devastating. I didn't think it would bother me. You know, why can't we just shave the mustache off? Or,
Mhm.
I mean, there's something you can do where I don't have it anymore. And they said no, that even if I shaved it off, there would be a hint that it was there. Now, you know, even though you're legally not a man, in their eyes, you're a man, you're an adult. So that was devastating. That equated to a suicide attempt. I wanted to kill myself because I wasn't famous anymore. When I graduated from high school, I was looking at where can I join another satanic coven. I was going to go off to college, and I figured that, you know, this is before the internet. So there's no place to find coven. There's no message board anywhere that advertises a satanic coven. I did find out that in adult bookstores, in the swingers magazines, if you get a local swingers magazine, in the back where the personal ads were, they would advertise satanic covens. But I don't want this knowledge. I don't want to go there to find a coven.
Right.
So I went looking for another coven, and I called my first coven, and I told them what I was looking for, and they told me that I was looking for the World Church of Satan. I'll give you a phone number. You call that number, do what they say. You'll meet these guys. Make sure you take your ID. So I called this number, and I left a message. And then a few days later, they called me back, said they were having a party on Saturday, and this was the address. And then I drove to this building, which was massive, saw that, and this guy walked up to my car and told me where to park. And it was about 2 miles away. So I drove all the way there, parked, found the lot, parked there, walked all the way back. It's about 2 miles back. Now you walk through the door, it's like double doors and a large curtain. Eventually, when you walk through it, like I gave myself the tour, there's a table with drugs, then there's another table with soda, and there's like 6 tables with food. There's chairs, and there's also couches and lounges and beds even in this room, just different parts, and just people doing different stuff. And as I'm walking around, some guy walks past me, tuxedo, old school, carrying a wand, corpse paint on his face, top hat. And I grabbed the guy that I was talking to, and I said, "Who is that? What is that? How can I do that?" And he says, "Well, who is in charge of your coven?" And I said, "We had a huge coven. It was 110 to 150 members at any given time." And he said that their membership is 1.1 million members worldwide, that a CEO and a board of directors runs the coven, and the High Wizard does the official magic. And I said, "How can I be the High Wizard?" He says, I don't really know anything about the High Wizard, except that you have to get Satan's attention. I know in my first coven that abortion gets Satan's attention. I started going to these, I got hooked in with the group of people that did abortions. And I told them that I had done them in my first coven. So I did like 4 more of those or 5 of those. And then just before turning 21, I got this letter in the mail, and I opened it up, and it tells me that I've been called before the CEO and board of directors. And I'm not sure what I've done, because I know that a lot of times people do things and they anger the coven. And a lot of times people get called before the CEO or board of directors and they're never seen or heard from again. So I went to a gun store, put in an application. So I bought myself a handgun. I had to wait 2 weeks to pick it up. I bought 12 clips and enough ammo to go in all of them. So I get invited. I'm in this room, and they said, I know you're wondering why we've invited you here. And the guy smiled at me and he said, you've been chosen to be the next High Wizard. And then they pulled a long cord on the wall, and this black curtain moved out of the way. And there were like 9 other tuxedos on the wall, like ideas of tuxedos and top hats that I could wear. And then they also had this series of 24-inch by 24-inch glossy photos of different corpse paint ideas for the face. And I don't have to use any of these. I can go with my own idea, or I can choose one of these and go with that. And that they'll assign a makeup artist to me, and she'll go with me to my events, and she'll help me put on my uniform and get me dressed and do my makeup. And they said that my first place that I'm going to go is Bohemian Grove.
And
That
this
this
is at 20, this is at 21 years old.
21 years old.
What happens next?
So being the High Wizard, I got to travel to foreign countries, meet with presidents, kings and queens, monarchs, diplomats, millionaires, billionaires. Well, a lot of people want like a magic spell done so that they can get a bill passed that lines their pockets with millions of dollars. So basically, it just comes down to greed.
Well,
You know,
what's the trade? So they're going to these high wizards to get these whatever intention that they have. Obviously, they're not leaning on God, but they're going to these high wizards because they want it quick. Well, what's the trade-off? What does the enemy expect? Because the enemy's a liar, so
right.
there is something that he expects from this person who's making this trade.
Well, the person that wants $1 billion contract, they are expected to pay my coven money, and they pay a good sum of money. You know, sometimes for you to earn $1 billion, you've got to pay my coven $100 million. But they have it. They pay the 100 million. We do the spell. Now suddenly they're going to be worth $1 billion over time. See, and when I was practicing magic, I was 91% accurate. So anytime I did a magic spell, 91% of the time, my magic came true.
How does one protect themselves from hexes? Let's say they go and they put a hex on you, a hex curse spell on a person. How does one protect themselves?
Well, you have to imagine when someone puts a hex on you, how the High Wizard sees it and how the person sees it is that a magic spell is done. But the reality of what happens is that the High Wizard prays to Satan to attach a demon to somebody. So there's a one-time, one-shot spell. There's a tri-spell, and then there's a hex. So in a one-shot spell, I send a demon to attach to you, and you're in a state of grace. The demon comes to you. Demons see everything with spiritual eyes. They can tell that you're in a state of grace. They can't attach to you. So he leaves. In a tri-spell, a demon comes to you 3 times. So he comes there on Monday at 4 p.m. You're in a state of grace. He leaves. He comes back in 3 weeks. You're still in a state of grace. So he leaves. And he comes back a week later. You're still in a state of grace. He leaves. He can't attach to you. You're safe. Now, in a hex, I do an abortion, and the demon comes to you and goes, "Oh, you're in a state of grace? No problem. I'll wait." And he just stands around and waits. He hangs out with you because eventually you're not going to be in a state of grace.
So let's say a hex was done on me or my family or my bloodline. How do I get rid of it?
There's only one curse that works. If you go to confession, it goes away. They have to put the curse on you the whole time they can see you. If you're in a state of grace, it doesn't stick. If you're not in a state of grace, it sticks. But once it sticks, if you go to confession, it falls off. It's the only curse that works that way. And most people don't get cursed with that. I was at a protest at an abortion mill. One of the managers from in the abortion mill came outside in her car and drove around a couple of times. And so she was looking at us, mumbling something. And I told everybody she's doing a line of sight curse. Everybody needs to be in a state of grace. And if you're not, we all need to go to confession tomorrow to get this taken off of us. And one of the girls' mothers asked, "I'm not sure if my daughters are in a state of grace or not." And I said, "Well, they'll find out tonight." So later that night, one of the girls woke up screaming and she saw a demon at the foot of her bed. And her mom asked her, "Are you in a state of grace right now?" And she said, "No." So she had to go to confession the next day, and then it dropped off. Generally, once you have the curse, you've got to first find out you've got a curse. Then you've got to go get deliverance done. There's exorcism and there's deliverance. Exorcism is what you need if you're possessed. If you've got a curse or oppression, any stage other than possession, you need deliverance.
How do you know if you're cursed, if your bloodline is cursed or your generation? How would one know or identify that they have been cursed or a hex has been placed on them?
It's about a 30-day process. You would do a fast for 30 days. Now, you're not fasting. It doesn't have to be from food, and it doesn't have to be a black fast for 30 days. So dedicate like a 4 to 6 hour period of time every day. And every day you could choose any 6 hours you want. Say you're not going to eat during that time, and you're going to announce out loud, "I am doing this fast from noon to 6 to see if I'm being attacked, to see if I have an ancestral curse," or whatever it is you want to find out. But only name one thing. And if you do have a curse because of a particular item, and you're fasting to find out if that's the curse you have, demons will have to attack you because you're fasting. You're doing a spiritual warfare against them. If they're not attacking you for that cause, they won't attack you. Like, a lot of people don't recognize spiritual warfare when it happens. Like I ask people, your car works fine for 7 days until it's the day to go to confession. And then suddenly all 4 tires are low. Your gas tank has half a tank of gas, even though yesterday it was full. It's like you have to recognize, because spiritual warfare can come from anywhere. And even a well-meaning person is sometimes the object of your spiritual warfare. A nice, friendly person, can just put the right idea in your head and cause you to slip.
So a 30-day fast to find out.
30-day fast to find out, if you're being cursed for that one particular thing. Now, if in 30 days you don't get attacked, chances are you're not being attacked for, that area is not cursed. But, you might want to think about doing a different fast for a different item.
Got it. I know, and this is, I know you're friends with Patrick and Joy.
Yes.
Yeah, from Joyful Hope. I've been following their ministry. And so they have this healing retreat, as a healing retreat where they teach you to close the doors, that are the 4 access, the access points. I also learned this from Father Yusuf. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Father Yusuf, he does the healing of families where they show you where you've sinned, and then you do a deliverance prayer towards the end. But curses, hexes, sometimes you don't know, but things are happening in your life. All of a sudden, sometimes everything is going good, but then all of a sudden, now your car breaks down. Things in your house are falling apart. Are you familiar with Father Ripperger?
Yes.
Father Berger promotes Our Lady of Sorrows, and he says, pray to Our Lady of Sorrows to reveal the generational sin. Ask her to reveal what is afflicting your family so that you know where exactly to pray. Because we have to pray position prayers and deliverance. Deliverance can only be done by a priest.
Well, yeah, it's also the people that he told could do these things were the apostles. These are bishops
Right.
or our first pope.
Mhm.
So our first pope can do this. The bishops can do it. We can't.
I mean, this is good information because in my country, I believe there's a lot of curses, a lot of witchcraft happening, but they have no idea what's happening to them. They don't know why there's so much suffering in your family. They don't know why there's so much pain, why you have division, why people are not succeeding financially. And then it goes on from generation, or why there's abuse, or why there's so much thing happening. One,
Sometimes it happens. Usually when you have a generational curse, if you look back, somebody died back in at some point and they died really violently, or somebody like a great grandfather was a 33rd degree Freemason and they curse everybody from them forward. And it goes for 4 generations. And those are things that need deliverance. The unfortunate part, like here in the States, only one of the children in the family will be Catholic. And he's thinking about getting a deliverance, but no one else wants to do it. No one takes it seriously.
that's what I'm finding. No one takes it seriously because I myself, at first I did not believe in any of this. And then more and more, I came to believe that this is actually real. When I speak about it to others, they don't believe. Same thing that you said. It's very hard for me. So like, yes, I'm praying right now for revelation, for truth to be revealed to my family members so that they can start praying and they can reach to the point of, okay, we need a deliverance.
If you're not going to do the Sorrowful Mysteries of Mary, I would recommend doing a 90-day novena to Mary, Undoer of Knots. Spend 45 days thanking her and 45 days petitioning, and ask her to be specific in what she reveals, because she will force the demons to reveal themselves as whatever kind of curse it is.
Right. It's just so one of the reasons why I started why Guadalupe Media started this show was because there was just too much suffering and people were turning away from God. So we wanted to highlight, these things to people so that they can be aware, so that they can, even if it's just planting a seed, that we're not doing something right and we need to return back to the church.
I made a podcast today and I mentioned that a lot of people, by the time they get a hold of me, they're at the end of their rope and they're telling me that, they stepped away from the church and they contacted somebody that practiced voodoo to do a spell for them.
Yes.
And that messed up their life. So then they contacted a witch doctor to do a spell for them. And that made it worse. So then they contacted a shaman and then a psychic. And by the time they get to me, my first question is, how long has it been since you've been to confession? They're like, oh, I was born Catholic and baptized as an infant. And I haven't been to confession in 40 years.
Right.
And then but the point of the podcast was you can't just go into confession and start with a whole line of people behind you because they're not going to get to go. You need to make an appointment with the priest for the confession because you're going to be in there for 3 or 4 hours.
So let's go back to this story because I went off track. So sorry.
So I was doing what's called a warehouse deal. In a warehouse deal, I show up with an entourage of people and we go into a huge warehouse. It's full of people. And all these people have been alerted to this by their producer, publisher, somebody in their organization has told them about this. And now they can go and see me and I'll see who wants to be a rock star. And they're told, whatever is asked of them, do it and you'll be famous. And so when I get there, some people are by themselves. Some people have their entire band set up. And that's not what I want. I just want to go and talk to you. I show up, I'm dressed as the High Wizard. and I've got about 6 people with me. I walk into this room. I'm looking for one who has the look. Who do I think would be a good rock star? And then I ask, who wants to be famous? Everybody raises their hand. Everybody wants to be famous. What are you willing to do to be famous? Everybody says they do anything to be famous. What do you mean by anything? Now, here's where people draw a line in the sand and say, well, I would do anything to be famous, but nothing with children and nothing with animals. And then I would tell my people, scratch their names off the list. And, I go up to somebody else, another group of people who wants to be famous. You get tired of asking these questions after a while. So I approached a group of people. Everybody was saying nothing with children and animals. And this one guy said he would do anything to be famous. You're our boy. So I talked to him a little bit longer. He can't sing. He can't dance. He can't write a song. He's got no talent. But I gave him this card. It's a plain white card with a phone number on it. I said, you call that number, do whatever it is they tell you to do. It's probably going to be filmed and photographed. But I'll see you on MTV in the next 6 months. I saw him on MTV in 3 months. So
these are so just going back again to the show. So these are the kind of requests that you constantly got as a high wizard.
So I got to party with rock stars. In my testimony, when I'm standing up in front of a bunch of people, I say that this woman came up to me and said the weirdest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And how I, quantify that is that if you give somebody that can write songs and poetry unlimited drugs and alcohol, they will say some strange stuff. And then, I say, if you want proof of that, go listen to a top 40 radio station, and just listen to the music that comes on the radio. And tell me how many of those songs make sense. So I helped 1,200 rock stars sell their souls. I partied with rock stars and actors. I did 146 assisted abortions total. I broke every sin under the sun. It was like, if I'd have known what an examination of conscience form was, I'd have set out to break them all. The first year I did this job, finding out that Bohemian Grove was real, seeing like how everything is connected and involved, the first year was very exciting, learning all that. The second year, I'm now better at the cremation of care ceremony. I'm now partying with rock stars and helping more and more people become rock stars and thinking this is the coolest job in the world. After year 3, though, I start thinking, how come my boss can't create new sin? And then one day, a new sin comes out. And, I say I equate doing sin to working in a candy store, because your first day on the job, how long is it going to take you to try every piece of candy in that store? How long will it take you to do every sin? Now, some sins are disgusting, so you don't want to do those. But how long will it take? Well, after 6 months, you've tried every sin you wanted to do. And in another 6 months, you've tried the sins you said you'd never do. On the third year, you're almost bored with doing sins. I mean, how many times can you get drunk or get stoned or have sex before it starts getting old? And a new candy bar comes out, you rip it off the wall, rip off the wrapper, and find out that it's the same old candy bar, just with a new wrapper. New drug comes out, crack cocaine. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. I'm going to be the first on my block to smoke this. And right after I'm done smoking it, I realize this is cocaine. So there is still nothing new under the sun. And, after 5 years, this job is getting kind of rough. Yeah, okay, I get to fly all around the world and I get to meet all these important people, but I'm more important than they are. I mean, if they were important, they could do what I do, but they can't. They have to ask me. So that makes me more important than them. And they pay my coven big money for me to do it. So that must mean I'm important. At any given time, there's normally 2 to 5 of us in the world, but the number could be as high as 10 and as low as one. And I'm thinking that I am high and mighty. If God was stronger than me, he could have stopped me, and he didn't. So I'm thinking I'm stronger than God. Now, of course, I know better. I'm just rocking and rolling through life. But after 7 years of doing this job, it sucks. I used to get to travel. Now I have to travel. I used to get to party with rock stars. Now I have to party with rock stars. I used to get to take drugs and alcohol and sleep with women. Now I have to. It's expected of me. If I'm not doing all that, they start looking at me with suspicion. Like, what's he doing? Like, you have to sin. You have to keep going. You have to keep up appearances. So I'm doing all that. I'm having a miserable time. Finally, after 11 years as a high wizard, I decided that I am going to escape. I have a bank account with $87 million in it. None of it's mine. I can't spend it. I drive a Lamborghini Diablo in the United States. It's not my car. I have about 12 cars. All of them belong to somebody else. My real car is a Nissan Sentra. In my bank account, my personal bank account, I have usually around $200, maybe 265 tops. I own a bunch of my high wizard costumes. It's a 18th century tuxedo, but my regular clothes were like a Metallica t-shirt, cutoffs, flip-flops. And every once in a while, I stay in a mansion. My real apartment is in Frenchtown in Tallahassee. That's the ghetto. But when I'm not staying in the ghetto, I'm staying in a mansion somewhere around the world. And people see me walk outside my mansion, dressed in my suit, getting in my Lamborghini, and I look like I have it all. And in reality, I've got nothing. I'm worth $200. I drive a Nissan Sentra, and I dress in Metallica t-shirts and cut-off jeans, and feeling very lonely also. So I pilfer money out of my own account because they watch my account too. So I go to the grocery store and buy something for $16 and pay with like $20, and I keep the change, or I take out an extra $10 here or there. And I keep taking out money like that over the course of about 8 months till I've taken out enough to survive for a little bit. And then I made a doctor's appointment with a satanic doctor on a Friday night at 5 p.m. And I got on the highway and drove like I was heading there, but I just kept going. And I got off the highway at a certain point, and I drove till I ran out of gas. All this was in the plan. I ran out of gas. I had taken all my credit cards with me and cut them up and just threw out a quarter of it here and a quarter of it there, so no one could put it together. So I run out of gas, and I spend the night in my car, and then I hitchhiked to the small town where they had already agreed to buy my car. So they went and towed my car in, and they bought my car, paid cash for it, and I bought a Greyhound bus ticket to get into Canada. And got to Canada, and they rejected me at the border. Now, this was 1999. 9/11 had not happened yet, and they told me that I could go anywhere that Greyhound goes. So I opened up a United States atlas, closed my eyes, and put my finger down, and it landed on Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'd never been there before, so I thought, let's do that. And I ended up staying with some people, then getting in with a church, and then staying with some other people, and then renting my own house. I basically lived off the grid for a year. And then 2 years, I started living back on the grid, built up my credit, and I bought a car. And then I tried to get into Canada again and failed again. So I was driving back home, and a friend called me and said that there's a border crossing near Burlington, Vermont. So I should try right there. Not a problem. So I start heading towards that. And I'm about 2 hours away, and I am suddenly so tired I can't keep my eyes open. So I pull over at a rest stop. I was going to just sleep for a couple of hours, but I woke up and it was the next day. I'm like, oh, not a problem. I got out, went to the bathroom, came back. So I got up, set my GPS, and started driving. When I crossed the border, I got pulled over by a border guard. And he searches my car inside and out, top to bottom. And this whole time, he's telling me about his life and how that he's been trying for the last 3 years to get this job. And today is his very first day on the job. And I realized, had I driven across the border yesterday, I'd be safely in Canada. But now I'm rejected at the border. God has got a sense of humor. So I drove to Burlington, Vermont. I had $18 and half a tank of gas. I met somebody in town my first day that let me park my car at their place. And I got involved in the homeless program. So I signed in as being homeless. Then I also got a job in town my first day. I went and I got a job at a place called Nectar's. And I told them I was willing to do anything. I didn't care what. And they gave me a job as a dishwasher. Then they told me that, well, we use you as we need you. So you just be on call. Like, not a problem. They just gave me some cash. I'm happy with that. And then that night, they came and got me at the homeless shelter. And they told me that because I'd done such a good job during the day and at night, that the guy that called in that night, they fired him, and that I'm now the full-time dishwasher. So I worked as the dishwasher for about 3 months. And then they hired me to be a doorman on the door, which is like a bouncer. And then after I did that for a couple of months, then they made me head of security. And then from that, I got a job in the mall. Well, no, from that, I went to a Polynesian restaurant where I started off as a bouncer and then ended up being head of security and then ended up being the GM of the bar. And then that closed. And I got a job at Finish Line in the mall. I was a manager in training for that. Then I got a job as a manager at Sunglass Hut. And then I got a job working at Piercing Pagoda. And I was the general manager there. And this woman came in one day to buy some gold hoop earrings. And I sold her what I thought would be the perfect pair. And then in the middle of the transaction, she goes, well, wait a minute. I'm actually shopping with my daughter. So I'm going to finish that. And when I'm done, I'll come back and buy these. And sure enough, 3 hours later, she came back. We did the transaction. And at that time, we were having a promotion that if you call the 1-800 number on this receipt and take a survey, you might win $1,000. And she's like, oh, that's great. I've got something for you too. And I'm thinking, oh no, she's going to pull out a Jack Chick pamphlet, tell me that I'm sinning, and drop to my knees and beg for forgiveness. All these things I can't do because I sold my soul to the devil when I was 13. And instead, she pulls out this little cheap gold-colored piece of tin. And then she said the weirdest thing I'd ever heard. She said, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And I thought, Blessed Mother. I grew up Baptist. We don't have all these names for Mary. And we have Mary. And what did Mary do? She gave birth to Jesus. That's why we have Christmas. So
you have no clue who the Blessed Mother is at this point.
I've never heard the term before, and the Baptist Church doesn't use it.
So you flee from the life that you are living. But is anyone looking for you? Is your coven looking for you? Or did you turn to the Lord, or at least utter a little prayer and say, just get me safely to somewhere? Is there any of this that's happened, or you're just in your mind, you're just running away?
I'm just running away.
Okay.
I left in 99. This miraculous metal incident happened in January 2008. I'd lived off the grid for a year and then back on the grid for the next 8. And I wasn't exactly hiding, but I wasn't out in the open either. I was just trying to be flying as much under the radar as I could. So, she says also that it's very powerful. Well, I know that Protestants don't bless anything. So this woman has got to represent some female deity cult. I came from 2 really big cults. I'm not interested in hers. If I join this woman's cult, they're probably connected to one of my cults. So I don't want to join. but I'll take it, and I'll make her think that I'm interested. And then at another time, she just starts rambling on and on and on, and I just kind of tune her out. And then after a while, I notice, she's got the gold, I've got her money. This was win-win for both of us. Why is she still here? I tune her back in, and she says again that it's very powerful. No, 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 no. I was the high wizard. I might have been the only one high wizard out of 7 billion people. And you're trying to tell me that blessed miraculous metal is stronger than me? No, it's not. I'm going to take it in my hand. I'm going to feel of it. I'm going to know there's no power with this. There's no mystique with this. This can't touch me. So I agree to take it. I stick my hand out. She drops it in my hand. She's all giddy. She's happy that I'm taking it. And I clench my fist around it because I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to tell her these things. Except that when I clench my fist around it, my store and my mall completely disappear. I'm standing in this darkened void. I can't see anything. I can't even see the woman that's talking to me. And she tells me about the magic spell I did last night, and that's of the devil. And I've committed over 100 abortions, and that's of the devil. And I've split over 100 churches, and that's of the devil. When this first happened, I wanted to attack her with magic.
Is this the same lady telling you that gave you the miraculous medal, is telling you that you did these things?
Yes. Now, I don't know this woman, and she knows all these things about me. But now I'm thinking, if I attack her with magic, she'll destroy me. Then she says again, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And instantly I knew this was a grace from the Holy Spirit. I knew that was the Mother of God, which was a strange revelation for a former Baptist to have. And as soon as I realized it was the Mother of God, the Mother of God showed up. She's the prettiest woman I've ever seen. She took me by the hand and she smiled at me. And it's a smile I knew I did not deserve. I was acutely aware of my 146 assisted abortions. And she turned me around, and Divine Mercy Jesus was standing behind me. I didn't know what Divine Mercy was. I just knew I had these rays of light shooting around me and over me and under me and through me. And I knew in an instant that I did not sell my soul to the devil when I was 13 years old. I knew that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior. I knew that all my magic, my New Age, my occult, my Satanism was false. And I knew everything Catholic was truth. And the Blessed Mother told me that my job was to help her end abortion. And I opened my hand, and I'm back in my store, back in my mall. And this woman's still talking to me. She tells me where she goes to Mass, writes down the address for me. And then she tells me that she's Father Joe Whalen's personal assistant in the St. Raphael Healing Oil Ministry, and that he doesn't even have time to talk to her. He's so busy. And while she's talking to me, her phone rings. And she looks at it and she goes, "Oh, this is Father Joe. I've got to take this." So at that time, Father Joe was starting to go deaf. So he talks like everybody's starting to go deaf. So I heard everything he said on the phone. She's like, "Hello, Father Joe. Can you hand the phone to the young man you're talking to?" He's like, "Certainly." So she hands me the phone. I'm shaking like Ozzy Osbourne. I'm like, "Hello? Welcome to the faith. Hand the phone back to Marianne." So I hand the phone back to Marianne. He hangs up on her. We get 2 more calls like that. And then her daughter comes up to the counter and she said, "Could you bring this man one of each of everything?" So she goes out to the truck and brings me back a paper grocery bag. Why do Catholics do this or do that? A Catholic Bible and around 125 Lighthouse Catholic media discs. And then when I got home, my ex-wife, my wife at the time, was inside the house doing the dishes. And she had grown up Jehovah's Witness. And she'd been disfellowshipped. And I walked in and I said, "Honey, guess what? I'm Catholic now." And she was like, "Of all the things you could possibly be, why would you do that?" But then the next day, she went with me to Mass. I had never been to Mass before. I'd been to 2 black Masses, and they didn't make sense at all until I went to Mass. When I went to Catholic Mass, suddenly the black Mass made sense. It was an inversion of this. And we started going to daily Mass. I was a manager in a store, so I could easily get to daily mass because the mall doesn't open till 11 a.m. But I couldn't get to Sunday mass because I'm a store manager and I had to be there. So for about 6 weeks, I was at daily mass. And then I learned about Catholic etiquette, certain things you don't say or do at mass. And I went to a Sunday mass. Me and my wife went to Sunday mass. Every day when we were there, it's like the same 20 cars every Monday through Saturday. Suddenly I'm there, it's a Sunday, and the parking lot is full. And we've got to find a place to park, and we do. And we go inside. There's barely space for me and her to sit. And we sit down, and then, we did the sign of peace. So everybody gets up and everybody's walking around the room, shaking everybody's hand. This church is full. There's got to be like 1,000 people in this room. And everybody's walking out. This guy walks up to me, a huge smile on his face. And he's like, "Good morning, brother. I come here to Sunday mass every Sunday. I've never seen you." And I shook his hand and I said, "Hello, I go to daily mass. I've never seen you there either." Suddenly he lost his smile and brought his hand away and walked around looking sad and dejected. And I thought, let's not say that again. So that was in January of 2008. In May of 2008, I officially entered the church. And then in August of 2008, I went to my first conference. And it wasn't my conference. It was my ministry was going to a conference. I was St. Raphael Healing Oil Ministry. And they let me speak at one of the conferences during somebody else's talk. And then before I actually spoke at another conference, it was 3 years later, 2011 was my first conference. And I've been doing it since 2011, October. And from then until now, I've had approximately 200 interviews and 204 conferences.
So now you go around and you give your testimony.
I give my testimony. I do spiritual warfare and pro-life talk, and I also do Satan and pop culture.
So did the lady that approached you, did she ever reveal how they knew, how she and father knew where to find you, what to give you? Because they had some insight. They had to have knowledge from God.
Marianne said that she felt the Holy Spirit was telling her, but she wasn't aware of most of the stuff that she said to me.
Oh.
And then to her, the biggest miracle of the day was that Father Joe called, because she didn't text him and say anything. He just called and asked to speak to me. And she has no idea how he knew. But he had some spiritual gifts because he had told me stuff after I got to know him, things that God tells him. And there was no way for him to know those things.
So was it Father Joe who helped you coming into the faith?
He found a spiritual director for me.
Okay.
He was too busy to take me on as a project. They found Father Anthony Gramlich. He's the rector for the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. So they found him, and so it was a cross between him and Monsignor LaValle, who was the priest where I came into the church in Winooski, Vermont, at St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church.
So now you know all of this about the Catholic Church. This is when you had just gotten that revelation from the Blessed Mother. What's your experience with the Eucharist?
Well, I say, I have a podcast that talks about the three greatest gifts that Jesus left us. It was his mother, adoration, and confession. The unfortunate thing is, we have, in theory, we have 1.3 billion Catholics in the world, but only 15% of them believe in the true presence. I believe that's why.
I think in one of your interviews that I saw, you got a grace to actually see Jesus, right? In the Eucharist?
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about that experience?
When I went to my first Mass, my ex-wife was sitting next to me, and at the consecration, I saw Jesus. It was Divine Mercy Jesus. But again, I still didn't know what Divine Mercy was. And I was like, "Whoa, did you see that?" And she says, "What?" I said, "That man." She goes, "What man?" I said, "The man up there on the stage." She said, "That's the priest." I said, "No, the other man." She said, I don't see anything. And I said, you don't see it because you're not Catholic. I thought that if you were Catholic, I thought all those people in that room saw what I was seeing. I thought if you were Catholic, you saw Jesus at the consecration. I thought that was a common thing. Like, to me, that was the greatest kept secret for me in the world. Had I known as a child that the Catholic Church legitimately had the body and blood of Christ, I'd have been there and no one could have drugged me out. I just assumed that everybody was seeing that. My ex-wife would be reading apologetics. She was determined to prove that the Catholic Church was not the one true church and was not the first church, because she had been taught her whole life that Jehovah's Witnesses were the first church. And then she found out they didn't get created till the 1800s, and there is no mention of Jehovah's Witnesses anywhere in history, except from 1800 and something on. So, she found out that was wrong, and she found the mention of the word Catholic in history, other than in books that were written around the time of the Bible.
So how did you come to the realization that you were the only one seeing Jesus up at the consecration?
Probably after I'd been to Mass 2 or 3 times, and we were going to daily Mass. And the woman that gave me the Blessed Miraculous Medal, Marianne Wickman, she went to daily Mass there. And so my ex-wife was talking to her, and she said, do you guys see Jesus at the consecration? And she said, no, I wish I saw Jesus. She's like, well, my husband does. And he just assumed that all of you guys saw it. And I walked up on the conversation. I said, yeah, don't you guys see Jesus at the consecration? Yeah, and they're like, no. I was like, you don't see a man with lights coming out of his chest that are like red and white, and he's got like one hand up and one hand pointing, and she's like, no, I don't see any of that. It's like, I don't understand. I just figured that all of you saw the ray of light that was shooting all over everybody. And apparently I was the only one.
So do you still see that when you go to Mass?
I saw it at every Mass, and every time I went to the Eucharist. I went to adoration for the first 2 years. And then for the third year, I saw it sporadically. And then after that, I didn't see it anymore.
So tell us a little bit about your ministry now and what you're doing and how people can reach you, and how you help them.
Reaching me now, my website is allsaintsministry.org. Allsaintsministry.org. My phone number is 802-578-6554. And my email address is mysticforgod@yahoo.com. Now, I also have a WhatsApp, and that's the same phone number. However, I know there's a country code, and I have no idea what it is. But if you go to my website and go to my contacts page, it has my email address and my phone number there. And I have a YouTube channel. I've probably got about 105 videos up, but I haven't made one in a while. My current thing is that I have a podcast. My podcast link is there. And I try and make podcasts almost every day, but I try to. It doesn't happen that way, but it's a good goal. Currently, I receive calls from priests, sometimes a bishop, once in a while a cardinal, usually lay people, and exorcists. With exorcists, a lot of times they want to know how the person got possessed because that person doesn't know. And so I can solve that problem, or what kind of demon they have, or maybe even the demon's name. People that call me want to know if they have a curse, or how to find that out, how to learn if they have a curse, or they know they have a curse, how to get rid of it, or they'll want to describe a situation to me. And everybody wants to believe they have a curse. And that's not the case. Not everybody has a curse. Some people are being tested by God. Some people, this is just how the day went. Sometimes your life sucks. This is that time. Sometimes God is trying to see how you deal with it. Are you going to pull closer to him, or are you going to walk further away? If you walk further away, you're failing his test. He wants you to get close to him. Even if you're possessed, the number one goal is to run from the devil and go towards God. A possessed person can still cling to God and do the best they can. You're not doomed. You're not damned to go to hell just because you're possessed. And if you think you've sold your soul to the devil, it's impossible to sell what you don't own. So what you've done is given your will to the devil. You just need to go to confession to give your will back to God. Now, if you're possessed and you're not Catholic, that presents a problem because most exorcists will not exorcise you if you don't believe in everything the Catholic Church teaches. And if you're not Catholic, why would you believe? If you believed in everything, you'd be Catholic. Oh, here's something else that a lot of people don't know. Organized Satanism used to attack the Baptist Church and the Catholic Church. Now, the Catholics, because, well, they're the Catholics, they're the first church, and he started attacking us and hasn't stopped. Churches that aren't attacked by the devil are 66,000 Protestant denominations.
Wow.
He attacks the Catholics. You want to know how he attacks the Catholics? Read the paper or online or LifeSite News. Anything that you can see every day where a Catholic church was destroyed, statues were pulled down.
Stealing the Eucharist.
Stealing the Eucharist, stealing the entire tabernacle. I get sometimes
I read in the news recently that some of the churches around Europe, no, they've been closed down. And now they're being transformed into hotels. And it's so unfortunate to read that.
I got interviewed by a Protestant podcast, and they wanted to know, like, why would I possibly think that in the true presence? Why do I think that's a real thing? And I said, well, odd that you would bring that up, because I didn't bring this up at the time, but animals recognize God in the true presence. And I said, Satan recognizes God in the true presence, and Satanists steal the true presence, Eucharist. How come they don't steal the Baptist Wonder Bread? How come they don't come in? I said, the Baptists do the remembrance ceremony every 3 months. It wouldn't be hard to find out when they're going to do it. What would stop a Satanist from running into the Baptist church, grabbing that ciborium and running out the door with it? So the only thing that the Baptist church is going to try and do is get that ciborium back. I said, but we don't care. That they're not going to steal it. They're not going to use it in their ceremony. They're not going to take them. They're not going to desecrate them. They're not going to do anything to them because they're nothing. They're just a piece of bread. But they believe in the true presence enough to pay up to $15,000 for it. Why would you pay $15,000 for a piece of bread if it wasn't God? And how is it that Satanists can tell the difference in a consecrated host and an unconsecrated host? I was at a Catholic church and I said, I've got a great money-making idea for you. Now, other than this being a lie and this being wrong, and you'd have to go to confession for it, what would stop you from going to a Catholic bookstore and buying a nice ciborium? At that time, they went for about $325, and then buying a box of unconsecrated wafers. Again, that's going to be about $10. So your investment is $335. Put all the unconsecrated wafers in the ciborium and take that to a satanic coven and say, I know these things sell for up to $15,000 each. I've got 100 of them. I'll sell them to you for $100,000. Why wouldn't they do it? And nobody knew why. And I said, because they would put their hand over it and tell that they're not consecrated.
They would know.
They would know because they can test. They don't know that what they're feeling is the true presence. What they do is that they feel sick or revulsion or hatred towards the host. Because remember that host is 100% pure love.
And this is where I noticed that some priests, when they're issuing the host to someone and they accept it in their hand and not to the mouth, I noticed that at least my parish priest, he looks to see if that person puts it in his mouth.
Right.
If they do, or if they walk away. And if the person, well, it has never happened while I've been to church, but lay ministers would be on the lookout and they would stop the person if they have not put it in their mouth or consumed it.
So there's 66,000 Protestant denominations that organized Satanism doesn't attack.
Right.
Why would you want to belong there if Satan's not attacking you? I mean, do you want to belong to it because Satan's not attacking you? because that would mean you're not doing Satan any harm. Like you're wasting your time belonging to that church.
So what last advice do you have for our viewers who have heard your story and heard how you miraculously come through the Blessed Mother?
I have a lot of people that say they don't know how to evangelize. And I tell them the easiest way to evangelize is to buy miraculous medals. I buy mine in the States from St. Paul Street Evangelization. They've got really good quality. They're made in Italy. It looks really nice. People usually don't receive that and want to throw it away. And just walk up to them on the street, hand them one and say, call your mother. If they're not, and make sure that you bless them first before you give them away, but call your mother. How simple is that? For Christmas, give them away in stocking stuffers. Give all your relatives one. But, it's such a simple way to evangelize. If you don't want to actually hand it to somebody, then leave them around, put them somewhere. If you're leaving money as a tip, put a miraculous medal with it. Do something that somebody has to pick it up, because they're going to get some grace by picking it up. That's worth something. Remember that you can't sell what you don't own. So if you think you've sold your soul, you've given your will to the devil. You just need to go to confession to give your will back to God. You might need a deliverance, but I gave you the test of how to test to see if you have a curse or something. Try that first, and then you got to find a priest willing to do a deliverance. And if you need me for anything, give me a call or email me. I am here to help. I'll do whatever I can.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. King. It's really been a pleasure listening to your story, and I'm sure our viewers, especially our country of Belize, will benefit so much from this. And in the future, when we need you to give us a spiritual warfare 101 lesson, we'll definitely reach back to you. Thank you once again.
I pray for your healing. The circumstances would change. I pray that the fear inside would flee in Jesus' name. I pray
For 40 years, Brothers Habit has been providing trust, quality, and unmatched customer service. And for our big 40th birthday sale, we're celebrating with amazing deals like 15% off all decorative paints, 15% off on all power tools from leading brands like Stanley, Black & Decker, DeWalt, and more, 20% off Pisaforte and Ascot tiles, and Mapei Thin Set for only $19. And don't miss out on our yard clearance for great deals every day. Come celebrate with us and save big at the Brothers Habit's big 40th birthday sale all November long.
If you've been considering purchasing real estate in Belize, or perhaps just making an investment for future retirement plans, if so, then Matos Real Estate Limited, Belize's trusted real estate firm, can assist you with the acquisition of Belize's finest real estate available in the market. Centrally located in Belize City, Matos Real Estate Limited is full-service real estate company dedicating itself in the sale of commercial and residential properties, island properties, developed farmland, acreages, seafront and sea view properties. Their focus is not just within Belize City. They also represent Belize real estate in the various districts and villages of the country. Contact them at 615-5886. 615-5886.
Babe, I'm going out to pay the water bill.
You don't need to go out. You could pay it from your phone. Look.
Babe, the credit card bill. I'll go pay it.
You can also pay it with your phone.
Babe,
Yes, love?
I need to go deposit the baby service pay.
You really want to go out, don't you? It's okay. I will make the transfer and you go play ball.
With Atlantic Bank Mobile, your personal banking experience is easier and more convenient. Bank your way with any of our digital channels and save time for what matters most.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Discover the diverse flavors of genuine Costa Rican coffee from Café Brit. We feature all classic favorites and have expanded our collection with new blends. Whether you want to stick to the flavors you're used to or want to explore different tastes, we can assure consistent quality across all our products. With over 35 years of experience, we are confident in our perfected coffee blends. Rest assured that we use the beans from Costa Rica when roasting our signature blends, including dark roast, light roast, espresso. We love creating new blends and discovering new ways to enjoy Costa Rican coffee. Among our new flavors are breakfast blend, afternoon blend, fusion. Our seasoned coffee roasters have over 3 decades of experience under their belts, mastering the techniques in making the perfect coffee blend. Shop today.
Come on!
When hungry or craving, when laughter or tears, enjoy the best snacking or flavors are here. Asadas, bocadas, chiladas, doradas, delicious for snacking, the right and done here.
Done right, done here.